Hello everybody, just a quick message before this video starts. Before I started to make this video, Nvidia wanted me to upgrade the GeForce Experience software which I used to gather footage from Train Simulator. After recording I realised that the software had changed my settings, so the software had incorporated my voice track into the video track. Whilst this does mean that my speech is in sync with what is happening on screen, the sound quality isn't as clear as it sounds normally. It wasn't until playing around with a hidden keyboard shortcut later that I managed to turn this setting off. By this point, I didn't feel like re-recording because I had a very good run with this scenario, especially after numerous attempts which had failed due to a varying number of reasons, such as problems with the game and a lack of motivation, amongst other things. Also, I didn't realise at the time that the in-game volume was at its highest setting, but I have done my best to alter the volume in my video editing software. But there may be times where you cannot hear me properly. Regardless, however, I do hope that you can still enjoy the video, and thank you for watching.
Hello everybody and welcome to another Train Simulator video. Today we shall be driving the Network Southeast Class 465 EMU from Gillingham Depot to Swanscombe. This is an Armstrong Powerhouse scenario and it comes bundled with the Armstrong Powerhouse 465 Soundpack. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take off the pause menu, and immediately we have to change cabs by pressing and holding down the control button and pressing minus. We'll put the train into forward gear, cancel the AWS. We will put the headlights on and we will slowly move the train forward. Sound a warning horn there. And the first thing we need to do is we need to run over to the carriage sidings at the opposite end where we will connect up with another 4-car unit. The speed limit within the depot is 15 miles an hour. As we approach the 4-car unit, we're just going to slow the train down now to at least 1 mile an hour. Because if we were to run in the train any faster, then the consist would derail. So bring it to an almost complete stop. Just apply a little bit of power. And we're now hooked up to the other unit. So now we need to change ends and set the points manually to Gillingham carriage siding reception road number 2. So we'll just turn the lights off at this end and we'll press, I think it's Control Plus. That's the wrong cab. Press Control Minus, get into the correct cab this time. We'll put the headlights on and we'll just go into view number 9. And I think it's this switch here that sends us into the, no, that's the wrong switch. Is it this one down here? It's this one here. So we've sorted that out now, so just sound another warning horn. and we can now depart to our next stopping point. We actually just have to stop just before the shunt signal at the end of the reception road here. So the speed limit is still 15 miles an hour. I'm just going to bring the train down to a stop. Put the train into neutral and press Y to activate the driver reminder appliance. And we just need to wait just a few moments for this instruction to clear. I believe we do have to tab this signal. Yeah, we've just got to tab the signal to proceed further into the station platform at Gillingham. So our permission has been granted. Turn off the DRA and we will slowly move into platform 1 at Gillingham. Just take away the HUD so you can just see a bit more of the cab. I tend to drive with the HUD just because I've got so many routes for Train Simulator now, and I've got so little time to learn them all to drive them without the HUD. So I just use the HUD for the speed, because sometimes the speedometers in certain trains are a bit too difficult to read, and I also use them for the distances between the stations and the signals as well. It's actually quite funny because I used to run BVE, the BVE simulator on one of my older computers, and I used to know like the Network West Midlands route pretty much off by heart, because the signals were actually, the way the signals were set up, they were just guiding you into the station, so it felt easier in that regard. So I've just got to bring the train into a nice smooth stop here, and we're actually booked to wait for 10 minutes. So once we've stopped, it'll be a good idea to I'll just run through with you what this pack comes with, and what the requirements are to run the scenario as intended. So it should be okay here. So I'll put the train into neutral, apply the DRA and open the doors and let the passengers on. I'll also bring up the HUD so we know when it's time to depart, because sometimes when the doors close on the train, the guard won't give you the right of way signal, and that's down to how buggy some of the platforms are on certain routes, and it's down to the way the platform markers are programmed. So just while we're waiting, we actually have to wait for another train to pass us at this point, which is coming in from Faversham, and it's just down at the previous station at the moment. We just have to wait for this Dover. Well, it's actually it's a split train. One end's come from Dover, the other one's come from Ramsgate, and they've both joined up at Faversham. So that is actually formed of a class 365 networker, or a class 465 which has been reskinned to be to pretend to be a 365, because the just looking at my notes here, the first 16 class 365s were introduced as third rail units in August of 1996, and they worked services in the area before being transferred to the East Coast Main Line in 2004, where they were eventually reassigned to run as they were intended as 25 kV overhead electrics. But the main reason why the 365s were brought down to the southeast first was mainly to help replace the veteran slam door EMUs, and they were used as kind of a stopgap before the Electrostars were introduced, in order to replace before the Electrostars were introduced. So the Soundpack, obviously, along with the updated sounds, it updates the physics of the 465. By default, the 465 has rocket-like acceleration and the braking from a Formula 1 car, but AP have gone out of their way to fix that. And also they've included their own version of a two-car class 466 networker, because this pack was made before the 466 made by Dovetail Games came out with the Sheerness extension. So you get an AP version of the class 466 as well with the updated physics. They've also retextured the cab and improved the lighting in it. And also, along with the sound pack, you get Network Southeast and Connex reskins for the class 365, as I mentioned just before. And also, another interesting thing is that when you start to apply the brakes on the 465, if your train has a Network Southeast or Connex livery, you can hear the traction motors brake. And in real life, after 2008, I think the trains were retractioned and you can't really hear the traction motors when they're braking on trains delivered after 2008. So that's another added bit of realism. To make this particular scenario work as intended, you will require the Armstrong Powerhouse JXA PDA wagon pack, the Dovetail Games Class 423, the European Community Asset Pack, and if you've owned Train Simulator 2012 or Train Simulator the UK edition of Train Simulator 2013 previously, then the European Asset Pack comes standard with those. But if not, you have to buy it separately on Steam, and that's because it uses I think it uses a class 37 or something from that pack. You also obviously need the London to Faversham route, because this is the where the scenario is based on. You'll need the Settle and Carlisle route. Now that's specifically because it does use a class 37 from that route. You also need the class 465, the standalone class 465 for London to Faversham. Actually, a few months ago, another version of the class 465 was released with the Chatham Main Lines route. But so far the Armstrong Powerhouse sounds only apply to the standalone 465 for London to Faversham. And finally, you also need the Just Trains Cargo Wagon IWB pack, and that's because that comes with that runs with that Settle Carlisle 37 on the freight train we might possibly see later on in the journey. But just here is the 365, which is due to depart in front of us. so we'll just go back into the cab now, and we will just wait for the doors to shut. In fact, whilst we are waiting, we can go through our list of station stops. So we are stopping at Chatham, Rochester, Strood, Higham, Gravesend, and the scenario ends at Swanscombe, because obviously this route doesn't go all the way through to London Victoria, so that's where this scenario ends. Oh, sorry, well, this train is actually based off the timetable of the 1707 Gillingham to Cannon Street service, but obviously because this route doesn't go into central London, the scenario will end at Swanscombe regardless. So a signal ahead of us has just cleared to a single amber, but I'm leaving the DRA applied because it is actually compulsory that when you come to a stop at a station, if the signal ahead of you is displaying a cautionary aspect, you must still apply the DRA. So as soon as it clears to a green aspect, we will turn it off. And the primary role of the DRA is that when you apply it, it cuts all power to the train, so it prevents you from setting off a danger signal. So it's just actually cleared to a green signal, so we'll just turn off the DRA. You probably have also noticed that I'm using the Armstrong Powerhouse lighting enhancement pack, which I actually recently purchased in their August bank holiday sale, along with quite a few other bits and pieces, just mainly to make scenarios work. But I've also bought a few two sound packs. I got four sound packs. I got the Class 67 sound pack. I finally got round to buying the Slandor sound pack, Slandor EMU sound pack for the 421, 422 and 423 EMUs. It was quite an old pack, and I didn't really feel that it was worth the full asking price, so that's why I waited for the sale to get that one. I've also got the Mark 1 and the Mark 1, Mark 2 and Mark 3 coach sound packs as well. And on top of that, got the Mark 2 DBSO pack and the scenario packs for the East Coast Mainline passenger and the Great Eastern Mainline passenger one as well. Those two AP36 and AP40 packs, which were released quite a few months ago now. So, and my aim is to cover all of those scenarios that come with those packs in due course. So it's just about time for departure now. So with the instruction cleared, the doors have closed safely. We haven't got the signal to depart from the guards, so we will now depart for Chatham. And we're just speeding a little bit there. And at this point the speed limit raises to 60 miles an hour, but we can't accelerate to the line speed until, well, actually according to the game now we can, but generally you can't really accelerate up to line speed until the back of the train's past the speed sign, but according to the game we can, so we're just going to take advantage of that. We're actually going to let the train coast now because we are fast approaching a further speed reduction down to 50 miles an hour, and shortly after that at the next signal there's a further reduction down to 30 as we approach on the approaches to Chatham. So I'm just going to put on a bit of braking. Put the brakes on now and slow us down for this 30, starting off in step 1. It should bring us down nicely, but if we have to, we'll move down into step 2. Just going to take off the brakes a little bit. Just going to bring us down nicely to that 30. That signal ahead has just cleared to a green aspect. Just apply a little bit of power, bring us up to the 30 mph. Just going to apply the brakes now. And we'll stop just before the 12 car stop sign and we'll open the doors. So just had the right away signal from the guard, and you reply to him by pressing the C key with the Armstrong Powerhouse Soundpack applied. So our next station stop is Rochester, and the speed limit is 30 miles an hour. And the version of Rochester station that is represented in this route is actually on the old site of Rochester station. Quite recently, the station at Rochester, the original station has been closed, and the station has been re-sited just further up the track with longer and has been made with longer platforms to take longer trains. And this is represented in the Chatham Main Line's route. So as we stop here at Rochester, we'll open the doors and we'll just show you that the old station is actually quite short. It doesn't fit our full train in, because we do have a 2-car class 466 on the back as well. So we'll just move the camera outside. notice that the lighting enhancement pack gives a much more realistic and warmer glow to the train. The pack applies itself to quite a number of routes. For this, I recommend you check out the Armstrong Powerhouse website, and that'll give you all the information you need to know about the lighting pack. But it also one of the main features, it reduces much of the blue mist, the infamous blue mist that dominates much of Train Simulator, and to me it actually makes the routes perform a little bit smoother. I thought it would hinder performance, but it seems to have improved it somewhat by reducing that blue mist, and the game seems to operate, the routes in general seem to operate a little bit better with the lighting enhancement pack. This bridge takes us over the River Medway, and we are now just about to slow down for a further reduction in our speed to 20 miles an hour. And we divert off the main line now, and we're going to run via Strood. Just alongside us there are there's the freight train with the Carlisle 37 in front of us, and we are now actually speeding a little bit. Just need to bring on the emergency brake there to bring our speed down. I'm not speeding yet. The element of distraction. I don't really think Strood will fit our full train in here either, so we'll just have to be extra careful coming up to stop at the end of the platform here. And our route is being blocked by this freight train, so I think we'll be waiting here for quite a while. Hopefully the game should let us open the doors. So not all the doors have opened as expected, and my mouse has gone to sleep. I've just recently had replaced my USB mouse with a wireless mouse, but it doesn't really at this. Oh no, it hasn't. It's come back to life again. But it's a Logitech mouse, but sometimes the battery comes loose from the contacts. It's just one of the cheap ones. Nothing too glamorous. It's nothing too glamorous. But this wireless mouse is actually a hand-me-down from my dad's computer, because he initially got it to replace his mouse, but now his computer's packed up, and because of the age of the computer, we're just going to get a brand new one altogether. But we're sort of looking at the options at the moment, because he's thinking about getting a laptop instead of a desktop. So, but we'll see what's available. But there is a couple of machines that I've spotted. There's a desktop I've spotted out for him. Which should be good enough, because he does photography and buses and all that. So we're just looking through the computer, the amount of computers at the moment. So. all that talk, I forgot to turn on the DRA, but I'll leave it switched on until we are ready for departure. So we can now depart for the next station at Higham. Obviously, not all the doors are open, so we didn't get the right away signal from the guard. And the speed limit is departing is 15 miles an hour. Still on a bit of a downhill gradient, so the train's sort of running away with us. And the speed limit will now increase slightly, only to 20 miles an hour, because there's because of structural problems on the tunnel. So we are now subject to a 20 mile an hour speed restriction all the way to Higham Station. So it's just going to be a bit of a long drag here. So I'll just be fanning the power controller up and down in order to try and maintain the speed. And the signal ahead of us is still red. So we'll just apply a bit of power just to bring us up to speed. It should clear by the time we get up to the signal. Looks like we're going to have to slow down to a stop, so I'll just bring on the brakes. And just before we come to a stop, the signal clears to a single amber, so we can proceed on to the next signal. So overall, I do like the sound pack for the Networker. AP have done an excellent job as always in making the trains sound more realistic than the default setup. I particularly like the convincing clicking sound of the AWS button, because it actually makes you feel like you've actually pressed something. So it's definitely a good set of sounds, and in the future I would like to see a Hitachi motor sound pack for the Networkers, because a couple of variants of the 465 have well, since 2007 been retractioned with Hitachi motors, so they sound different to what they used to. They now sound more like the Javelins, the Class 395 Javelins, which I believe the Networkers with the Hitachi traction motors, it actually uses the same or similar sort of traction package to the Javelins. So retractioning trains actually helps with life extension, The Southwest Trains Class 455 EMUs are currently being retractioned at the moment with a new set of traction motors from I think it's a German company. I can't quite pronounce the name of the company that supplies that are supplying the traction motors, but they are actually the same company that have retractioned the Lisbon tram, the vintage Lisbon tram cars. The remodelados, they now use Skoda motors. So, and I've seen videos of the retraction 455s, and they actually sound quite good. They have a very deep throb to them, which kind of reminds me of how the London Underground C stock sounded pre-refurbishment, because when the C stock were refurbished, the trains had their traction motors retuned, so they retuned to so after refurbishment they sound the roar of the traction motors was in a higher pitch to what it was previously. So I'll just check the itinerary, and we've stopped at amazingly we've stopped at all of our stops correctly, which is good, because I have played this scenario quite a few times before doing this video. In fact, I have attempted making this video the past few times I've done this scenario, but things started to get when things started to get in the way. I had to push this video aside for another day, but when I've played it, sometimes I haven't stopped correctly at mainly Rochester and Strood were the main culprits, so I think it's because the timings are a bit tight, because AP scenarios, they're done in the timetabled format, and sometimes when you don't stop at a station on time, you fail that instruction, and thus you don't get the green tick at the end of the scenario briefing. So it would be nice if we could get the green tick this time. So we've just passed the termination board for that temporary speed limit, but we can't accelerate to the line speed until the rear of the train has passed it, but that won't be until we come into the station anyway, and there's no point in speeding up now, so we'll just try and maintain our 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. And the line speed has now increased up to 70 miles an hour, but we're not obviously going to speed up now because we need to stop at Higham. We need to stop at the 12 car stop sign. Just have to apply the brakes there. The signal's still green, but I can't see the aspect from the position in the cab, so we'll just wait out here. I've put the when we come to a stop at stations, I always put the reverser into neutral to stop the driver safety device from sounding. But on some trains now, particularly the Just Trains. Some Just Trains models, like the Class 153 and the Voyager, you get the vigilance device. You can actually hear the vigilance device from the external views, and on the Armstrong Powerhouse, on the Armstrong Powerhouse trains, you can set up visual alerts for when the DSD alarm sounds in the cab. So we stopped at Higham correctly, and our final passenger stop is at Gravesend before we continue on to the stopping point at Swanscombe. Just got 4 miles to go before our final passenger stop at Gravesend. And there goes the vigilance device. The vigilance device for the Class 465 is cancelled by pressing Q, which is the same button used to cancel the automatic warning system. Nowadays, drivers only use the low nose of the horn owing to environmental noise considerations, but at the time of this scenario, the driver would have been able to use both tones of the horn when approaching whistle boards. So we'll aim to use both tones. The 465 Soundpack actually has a really good horn. Certainly much better than the default horn. The reason why there's a high amount of whistle boards in this section of track is because of the amount of public footpath crossings. So we've just got a warning of a reduction in our speed to 50 miles an hour. So we will just easily we'll just start to apply braking past the Class 37 in load hall livery. And for some reason we got the AWS warning for a blank signal. In real life, the driver would actually, if he would see a failed signal, he'd have to apply the brakes and contact the signaller. But this is down to a bug in Train Simulator, and our route is actually clear into Gravesend, so we'll slow down further. And again, we've passed another blank signal, but you just momentarily saw there that it changed to a red aspect, so obviously it should be displaying the green aspect. But now we've got a single yellow, or it should have been displaying the double yellow. We've now got a single yellow ahead. So slow down for a further reduction down to 30 miles an hour. Slow down further to 15 miles an hour, so we'll do that now. And here we are at our final stop at Gravesend, final passenger stop at Gravesend. The scenario does continue to Swanscombe. And the signal ahead is displaying a green aspect, but I'm actually going to stop just before the signal because on one of my attempts I stopped just beyond the signal and it changed to a red aspect, and for some reason the points reset back, so that ended up derailing the train as it departed Gravesend. So we'll stop just before the signal just to avoid any conflicts with the game signalling system. So we'll just stop here and we will open the doors. Obviously not all of our train is accommodated in to the station. It probably will have done, but I think the platforms were a little bit too short on the actual route itself. So, because I know on certain routes some station platforms were built a little bit too shorter than what they are as opposed to in real life by the route modelers. So, but the doors now are closed and we have cleared that instruction, and all we need to do now is hopefully get to Swanscombe. But if we derail on this set of points, we'll probably end the video here. So, but we'll see what happens. And we haven't derailed, so we will now continue to the end point of this scenario. Speed still 30. Will now increase to 70 miles an hour once the game lets us accelerate. It's not too far to our stopping point at Swanscombe. It's only about 2.5 miles now. Just past the point where High Speed 1 diverges away from us towards London St Pancras. Of course, this link, at the period of this scenario, this link would be non-existent. And we will prepare to stop at Swanscombe. So we've just brought the speed of the train down. there's no time that we have to be at Swanscombe, so we'll just take our time and slow it down. I haven't said that we are coming in a bit too hot there. So ideally you'd like to enter station platforms at no less than 30 miles an hour, but if the platform is rather short, then probably no less than 20 or 15 miles an hour. So we've just passed over HS1 now. And here we are at Swanscombe. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope that you have enjoyed it. I've certainly enjoyed making it. I think it's been a good run, this scenario. Certainly much better than my previous attempts. And hopefully I will see you again soon with another train simulator video, but I do have other videos to upload before then, so I'll have a look, see what videos there are to work on and see what I need to prioritise to upload first. But thank you very much for watching, and take care.